It is Wednesday morning, everybody, and I know that means you're expecting to see the dog himself, Mad Dog Russo. But guess what? He's not here this morning. Why? Because this brother is hanging out in London, England. Check him out. This is so pathetic. No, probably not a damn soul over there knows it, but as long as he gets to hug Timothy Chalamet and all, after he's cried for weeks about the guy, he's there in London, Mad Dog Russo, because that's why he's not on First Take today. Look at him, soaking it all in, cheesing left and right. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. But I'm happy for my boy. I'm happy for him. First Take's in the house. Let's roll.
I'm not going to lie, I am so happy for him, like a proud parent. I'm cheesing, I'm getting updates, texts, him on the red carpet. Mad Dog, you go on with your bad self, living your best life. We miss you, and I hope he had so much fun across the pond with his daughter and Timothy Chalamet. I got some Super Bowl champions here with me. Jeff Saturday, Chris Canty. Of course, y'all saw Stephen A. Smith from an exotic, undisclosed location. Gentlemen, should we talk some football? Let's do it. After the Steelers' fifth consecutive one-and-done trip to the playoffs, Tomlin's job status and future with the organization has been a very hot topic of debate. Tomlin signed a 3-year extension last offseason, just completed his 18th season at the helm, and had an interesting response to a reporter's question yesterday.
A lot of fans have been questioning coaching at the top, starting with you, if you are still the right guy for this job. What's your message to them?
You know, I have no response to that. I understand the nature of what it is that we do, the attention and criticism that comes with it. As a matter of fact, I embrace it, to be quite honest with you. I enjoy the urgency that comes with what I do and what we do. I don't make excuses for failure. I own it.
Mike, at least one team has reached out to inquire about your availability, understanding that you have a no-trade clause in the contract. What's your message to any team that may reach out to the Steelers to gauge interest or availability in your services?
I have no message. Save your time.
God, I love that guy and what he stands for. Okay, Stephen A., obviously you're a Steelers fan. You're a fan of Mike Tomlin. He's a friend of yours. But tell me this, do you feel like he needs a fresh start?
I don't think it's that he needs it. I think that ultimately everybody has the right to question whether or not he needs it or they need it. I think it's important to recognize that there's legitimacy to the skepticism and, dare I say, the negativity that's been thrown in his direction. I love Mike Tomlin as a human being. I love him as a coach. I love the fact that in 18 seasons as the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's never had a record below 500. But I also covered the game of basketball. And you know what we say about mediocrity? It's the worst position you could be in. Either be great or be absolutely awful so you can build and restructure. And you can position yourself to get high draft picks and improve your roster. Be in the middle of the road, being average but not above it and not below it is problematic. And that's what we have to deal with when we're looking at Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin wouldn't expect me, Ryan Clark, or anybody else, especially you two guys, to speak any differently about what we're about to say here. He has not won a playoff game since 2016. He's been one and done at least 5 times. And when you take that into consideration, if it were any other coach, we would be asking the same question. I will remind y'all that Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowl titles. He went to 9 Super Bowl appearances. He had 9 Super Bowl appearances in his career as the head coach for the New England Patriots. But when Tom Brady departed and mediocrity ravaged the Patriots franchise in a far more alarming way, because Mike Tomlin has never been 4-13, of course, Bill Belichick is out. And nobody was looking to hire him. And I think that was dumb for them to not look to hire him, the Atlanta Falcons of the world and maybe a couple of other teams. But nevertheless, that reality is something that he had to deal with and everybody else has to deal with. And so I appreciate Mike Tomlin being honest enough, as he always is, to say that this is the nature of the beast, it's the nature of the business. He understands what comes with it. But also what comes with it is recognizing the fact that if you're the Steelers organization and you decide to say, look, it's not him, we really need a quarterback, all right? Or if you're the fan base and you say, the hell with all of that, we need a new voice. Nobody's wrong, because the results mandate that you have that kind of skepticism.
Well, Stephen A., I'm old enough to remember when you were giving all the smoke to Marvin Lewis because he wasn't having success once his team got to the playoffs. Well, guess what? Right behind Marvin Lewis is Mike Tomlin for the longest streak of playoff appearances without a win. Let that sink in. Mike Tomlin ain't won a playoff game in 3 presidential inaugurations. Mike Tomlin has been one and done in the postseason 5 straight seasons. You're talking about Mike Tomlin having 6 consecutive playoff losses. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin are an old married couple that's been together for 18 seasons, and all they got is all these years. And at some point, that mediocrity is just not enough. Not if we're to believe that the standard is the standard. And so whether or not I think they need a fresh start is a moot point because they're bringing him back. The only question that I have is how is 2025 going to be different than 2024 or what we've seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 8 years?
I would agree with both of you. I think the conversation has to be had. Here is my take on Mike Tomlin, though, and you're talking about replacing him. Before seasons begin, there's expected wins for each team, right? And coaches are evaluated basically on that. No different than a running back, receiver. What do you do above expectations? 12 of Mike Tomlin's 18 seasons, he's outperformed those expectations. Now, you get to the playoffs, and it has not been that same. However, 2 of those 11 losses came to quarterbacks that you would say were poor, right? The Blake Bortles of the world, that kind of thing. The others are Brady, Manning, right? They were some teams, right? And so I would tell you, very rarely has Mike Tomlin walked into the playoffs expected to win that game. Now, you got to outcoach that. You got to outperform it to be in the same list that we're talking about. If the standard is the standard, and Mike Tomlin's not trying to hide for that smoke. My take on this, though, is this is much more about a roster rebuild than it is about a coaching change. And now you can hold him culpable for the Matt Canada keeping him too long. You could talk about you drafted Kenny Pickett. It didn't work out. Those things are true conversations that have to be had. My question is, whoever you bring in, the same things that Mike Tomlin has to do this offseason, they're going to have to do, or vice versa. If you were to bring in a new one, you got to fix. You need better receivers, right? Pickens is, he had an up and down season. You got to go get a T. Higgins. You got to go get a dude that's out there. If you got to go get running backs that can break a run and go be better. Their defense has to be truly what you say is a shutdown defense. If that's the style you're going to go win with. They have not performed to the level in the playoffs that people expected them. I did not expect them to beat the Ravens this season. Did you in the playoffs? I didn't expect that.
I didn't expect them to beat the Ravens, but I didn't expect for the Pittsburgh Steelers to give up the most rushing yards in a game,
Agreed.
Regular season or playoffs, in the last 50 years.
Agreed. I agree with that.
They got embarrassed. They got beat from pillar to post against the Baltimore Ravens.
For sure.
And to me, way that this season has ended, 5 straight losses, lets me know that I'm getting further and further away from what the expectation is within that franchise, which is try to compete at a championship level.
Yeah.
And you pointed out the biggest issue, the biggest impediment that the Steelers have been dealing with for the better part of the last decade, what's been happening at quarterback.
Exactly.
And although I'm not going to pin all of it on Mike Tomlin, I will say this. There have been other franchises that have been able to draft and develop quarterbacks that they haven't taken in the first round.
That's a fair criticism.
Right? I mean, Brock Purdy was the last pick in the NFL draft. Jalen Hurts playing in divisional round weekend, 2nd round pick. There have been other franchises that have been able to find quarterbacks, and Mike Tomlin hasn't been able to find that guy or develop that guy.
But you agree that's not as much coaching as it is roster development, right? Like they haven't tried with Roethlisberger. They kind of when you get that like Peyton Manning's and the Roethlisberger, you don't really go get a guy you're trying to develop, right? You kind of go get guys that's not really on the forefront of organization. So when Pickett came in, I would agree with you. At that point is when you really try to go get guys to go develop them. They have not done a good job in that. But to me, that goes to the general manager and / head coach, that relationship to get that roster right, as opposed to just strictly coaching.
Stephen A?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, ownership has to come into play. Let's get that out of the way first. But before I do that, Canty, nice tactic on First Take. Doesn't work here, my brother. You can't sit up there and talk and don't give anybody a chance to come back at you. Stop that. Stop that, okay? You got to give us a chance to come back at you, right? They're damn right. Here's the deal, y'all. And Jeff Saturday, I brought this up the other day when it came to Chuck Noll. I'm looking at it. Now, Chuck Noll won 4 titles in 6 years. His last coming in 1979. Before the Pittsburgh Steelers went and hired Bill Cowher, look at Chuck Noll. 12 seasons, 1 double-digit win season, 4 playoff berths, 2 playoff wins. And they stuck with him for 12 years.
Yeah.
So, again, we can't ignore ownership because one of the things the Rooney's pride itself, and they deserve credit for it, they've had 3 coaches in 50 years. We look at Jerry Jones, he's had 9. He's had 9 in half the time, okay? You clearly look at the Steelers priding themselves on being an organization that knows what they're doing. They're meticulous, and they're detailed about who they pick to run their franchise. But in the same breath, the Pittsburgh faithful is saying, okay, here we go again. You can't just look at the general manager. You can't just look at the head coach. You got to look at an ownership that's comfortable with mediocrity going on for a little bit too longer than they should be comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they've got all offseason to deal with that because they're not playing this next round of the playoffs.
And they'll try again, 2nd and 10. They'll fake the handoff. Now Smith. And he's taken down. This will be a Brown sack.
Okay, you know my bias is about to come out here. A lot of people would think that the offense is just moving in the wrong direction. I'd say they're moving in the right direction because the defense is pushing them back.
Former defensive guy. Now, as a quarterback, 3rd and long, you really got to rally the troops here, don't you?
Yeah, you do in a big way. And what else do you have to look out for? More pressure coming at you because it seems to be working pretty well.
3rd and long, it's Smith escaping the pressure right. Slings this deep. This is caught inside the 15. And he takes it in. Touchdown, Washington.
Hostiles in the area. Yeah. I've got you.
Enemy attack chopper is out. Bring it down.
Hey, sorry guys. No! Leave?
They're making us fight for it. Keep at them.
Oh.